in Table Talk Tuesday. We finally have you as a guest.
Yes.
You can get us all the lowdown on breadcrumbing, catfishing.
All the good things. I have all the good info for you.
Oh my gosh, you can't wait. You can't wait. I'm so glad to have you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so glad to
Thank
connect.
you so much for having me. I'm so excited. So this is just really great. I love joining you. So I'm so excited to connect with you. Yeah.
And the thing about it, I did not want to really have a deep conversation with you at all beyond this conversation, because I like to kind of explore who you are as a person, what drives you, where you're from, what made you into who you are today. So if you've never been part of the Table Talk discussion, it's really about your journey. And I do feel like we find healing within our own lives and our purpose by reflecting on our story, regardless of whatever belief system you come from. If you talk about your story, you'll see certain themes in your life that's going to tell you about your next step, or tell you about where you came from, and it'll definitely encourage you. It's a biblical principle, but I believe it applies to everything. So, it's so rewarding for me to listen to stories, you know. So I get so excited to kind of hear your story and where you're from. So saying that, Karen, who are you? Where were you born? Yeah.
Before we even start on myself, can we just all give little hearts for Coach Eddie's eyes?
Oh, thank you.
Those eyes are mesmerizing.
Thank you.
Beautiful eyes. I want to see little hearts go up, guys.
Okay. They don't have to. Oh wow. Awesome, thank you.
Where am I from? There we go. Look, see the heart? I saw the heart there. The heart's going.
Gosh.
The hearts are going.
What are we trying? Can you turn this around
eyes
on me? Oh my gosh.
I see your heart's floating there. Sorry, I had to do that. As a woman, I just had to say that.
Oh my gosh. Where are you located, Karen?
I am in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Oh, okay, you're in Florida too.
Yes. Where are you located?
Orlando.
Oh, you're right there. Okay, my daughter goes to college in Orlando. You're up the street.
Oh, so what? UCF?
UCF.
I live 5 minutes away from UCF.
Yep, she's in UCF. She is in her third year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's a junior there. Yes, she was the daughter that was cast on the show with me, but we'll get into that later.
Okay.
Yes, where am I from? I was born in Manhattan, and my heritage is Hispanic. My mother's Colombian and my father's Ecuadorian.
Okay, wow.
Yep, and I moved as a baby back to South America. So I was raised my first few years in South America in Ecuador.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So did your parents meet in Ecuador?
My parents met. They came separately to New York City. They didn't know each other because they're from two different countries. And my parents met at a party in New York, and fell in love and got married within 6 months. And they've been married, I want to say it's 58 years in May.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they got married within
9 grandkids.
They got married within 6 months of meeting each other?
Yeah.
That's bananas. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I know. For nowadays, it's bananas,
oh my
right?
Gosh. Yeah.
So,
I love it.
I do know couples that have been together 5 years and get married, and their marriage breaks up within a year or two.
Yeah.
And then I do know a couple that got married, not my parents, but a different couple that got married. I think 5 months they were together, and it's 20 something years later now. Yeah. So I think
it's a luck of a draw.
Yeah. Someone goes Leah goes bananas. Yeah, bananas for nowadays, right?
Bananas. Okay.
We're at 6 months still dating several people, not wanting to commit to one.
Exactly. In this day and age, how is our volume? If the audience can tell us, is our volume good? If it's a 10, let us know, because sometimes I do this whole table talk and the volume is off. So if the volume is good, let me know. If not, I'll adjust it to make sure you guys can hear me clearly.
I hear you a tiny bit low. Do you hear me fine?
Okay, you hear me a tiny bit low. Let me try to take this off, because I feel like I've been using this microphone, but it hasn't been working right. How about now?
See, someone said good. I just may hear you low, but I can still hear you.
Okay, how about now? Is it any better now?
No, it's the same.
I don't know what to do there now.
Put your microphone in. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah. New York girl said good. So yes.
Okay.
So my first few years, I was raised in South America.
Oh wow.
Came back to the U.S. When I was 5, and I've been in Florida ever since. And
wow.
yeah, so I
So when
consider
you came
myself
back
a
to
Florida
the
girl.
okay, so when you came back to the U.S., you came back to
We
Florida,
came
opposed
back
to
to
the U.S.
Florida instead of New York. Yeah,
Okay. So what was
yeah.
your family dynamic? Did you have brothers, sisters?
So at that point, I had an older sister and an older brother. I was the baby, and then we came back here. And then when I was 6 years old, my little brother was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's 4 of us. It's 2 and 2. And thankfully, by the blessing of God, both my parents are still alive,
Oh, wow.
healthy,
Yeah, yeah.
super healthy. I mean, just, typical little arthritis here and there,
Yeah,
little, but
yeah,
nothing major. All my family's healthy. I live the furthest from them, 25 minutes. It's like, so I'm the black sheep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we all live like basically half an hour from each other. So
So
we're all there.
how did like your family dynamic growing up? Was it like a very open home? Was it a very strict home? Was it a very like
It was a
in
very
church every week? Latino.
Yes. My mother would drag us to church, and it was in Spanish.
Okay, yeah. And you're
And
there all day.
oh my God, and we'd be there for like 2 hours, and
Yeah.
she would be like, just hush and just sit down. So it was I was raised in a very Latino Catholic household where the man is the man.
Yeah, yeah.
And, she was raising kids. She had my sister, she got pregnant the second month that they were married. So she's been raising children since she was 18. And to now, 50 something years later, she is even helping out with my 4-year-old niece. So she's never stopped raising kids. Yeah, that's like what fills her. That's probably the last, I'm thinking this is the last grandbaby. And like, she's like, she's going to kindergarten. What am I going to do with myself? Because all these 50 something years, that's what she's done. Yeah. So,
wow. So
very, very, very typical Latino, very strict. But it was great.
it was
I mean,
more like a traditional household, right?
very traditional household. We had a big extended family with my cousins on my mom's side. We were all like that. That was where my first friends, besides my brother and my sisters. We were every weekend together, always playing, always together. So my cousins were like my first best friends, and yeah, every weekend. So. Yeah.
So did you like speak English like when you started school in America, or was it a transition?
No. When I came back here, I was 5 years old when I came back. So I left when I was 6 months old. So when, I was born in Manhattan, left when I was 6, came back when I was 5, and I knew no English actually.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know anything. I probably just knew like my name is, if that much. And my mom's like, you got to go to school. And she literally, everyone laughs because they say, you're from Miami and you don't have an accent. You don't have the Miami accent. And I think partly is because I learned, everyone laughs when I say this, I learned English. She put me in, so my brother and sister would go to school. They were old enough that they already had English when we left to South America, and they were like in the American school over there. So I only knew Spanish, and she sat me in front of the TV, and I learned English from Captain Kangaroo, Sesame Street, and Mr. Rogers.
Wow.
Those were my first teachers. And I remember going to kindergarten when I had to. And it's so funny. People go, oh my God, that's so sad. And I'm like, no, it probably made me who I am. The kids would say, she's weird. She doesn't speak English. And the teacher would play with me in recess because the kids wouldn't play with me because I didn't speak English.
So you were the weird one. Oh, wow.
I was the weird one. And I was raised in, West Broward County when there was hardly no Hispanics here. And yeah, so it was, yeah.
So
we didn't go to Miami.
So as you travel through, as you travel through elementary school, you learn how to speak English, right?
Oh, I probably learned because you're, when you're 5, your brain absorbs so much. It comes like 4 months or something. Yeah.
So like during like 3rd or 4th grade, how was like your dynamic with school and the people in school? I mean, how were the teachers?
Good. I was always like the social butterfly. I was never like in a clique. Like here we call I would hang out with the jocks. I would hang out with the burnouts. I would hang out with the people who were the artsy people. I would hang out with everyone. I had like friends in every little circle. So I loved it. I was always the social butterfly. And then I had like my 2 core friends, but yeah. And then high school was great. And so music was always my life. Music was always like, I would say music is the motor that makes my heart run. And
so throughout, like even when you were younger, you had this thing with music.
Oh my God, I wanted to be Marie of Donnie and Marie. Yes,
You still want
yes.
to be Johnny and Maria. I feel like it.
Yes. I have to say, hey, I have to say to someone, Mag Chop is on here, and I was on their show last week. So he's like, he hung out with us last week. It was so much fun. Yeah, so I had to say, I should do a shout out. But yeah, so I wanted to be, you know, Marie of Donnie and Marie, and absolutely music loved. I was probably since like 6 years old saying, I want to be a singer. I want to be a singer. I want to be a singer. And so between the ages actually of 14 to 19, I was in a girl band. It was a girl trio, a Latin girl trio called Carousel. And we traveled all through South America and Central America. And back then it was before the Latin explosion like happened, before like Ricky Martin and the Latin explosion happened at the Grammys.
But was it during the Selena time or no?
No, she was way after us.
Okay.
And
way after. Yeah,
and so we did like New York, Chicago. In the U.S., it would only be like the major stronghold cities of Hispanics were like New York, Chicago, Texas, you know, Florida. That's what we would do. Puerto Rico, and then the rest was Central and South America. And it was the greatest experience. I didn't have, you know, totally a normal high school life or anything, but it was the greatest experience. I traveled the world. I got to share stages with some of the biggest Latin legends. And I mean, it was great. It was amazing.
Okay, so how did you get into that? Did you get into that through like your parents, or how did you find those opportunities?
It was so we were under a label called Sonotone, Sonográfica from Venezuela, which is Sonotone Latin Records in the U.S. And so we were the Latin trio, and at that point we were produced by what they were called the A Team. It was like the really popular producers. It was like a group of producers. It was 3 of them. And we were produced by them. So it was really an amazing, awesome experience. So wow. I traveled through that. And then at 19, the band broke up when I was 19. And I got it.
So that was a couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a step back a little bit, like, because we're already at 14. Like, so how did you get to like from traveling and being in a group? Like, what transition between like elementary school to like middle school? Like, were you like evolving in music? Were you in these circles? And were you like
always? Always. Anything.
Can you explain that journey?
Yes, anything that had to do with music. I was like even like in a little band of like in school, you know, like a little, you know, band that we made up in school, and I loved it. It was always all about music for me, and you know, thankfully God put this in my path, and I got to go on that journey, which was amazing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was always, oh my gosh, I love back in that day, instead of what is now I don't even know what the boy bands are now. Like BTS or something like that. I don't even know anymore.
Did you have like a music teacher that kind of saw your talent, or was there anyone in particular that kind of?
Actually, no. It was just inside me. My teachers would, and it's funny because I would be at school like, oh, why am I at school? This is not my life. I need to be a singer. Like that was my whole mindset. Like, why am I even here? And it was so funny that they would like, I had one teacher, I remember like Mr. Perez, like in 9th grade, and he would be like, oh, you decided to join us because you're not out on tour. And he would laugh, and he would encourage me. And I would always like look at everything. Oh, I saw you last night on TV, or, you know, it was really good. It was cool. It was very cool. And we had, you know, you know, our singing teacher, we had choreographers. So it was a really, really cool journey.
Now, was it your parents that found these opportunities, or did you sort out like these players in the industry to kind of connect with? How did the band come together? How did like that all transform? I mean, you're young, and you have 2 immigrant parents that probably have a thick accent, if I can imagine.
Yes,
you know? And so the moving and shaking, were they blue collar or white collar type of jobs they had?
My dad, I'm gonna tell you. So my mom was, you know, typical, you know, when they got married.
I know exactly.
And he was always the provider. You know, the provider mentality, care of the household no matter what, sometimes held down. 2 jobs, 3 jobs. But my father, I always tell the story, all of the kids, the 4 of us, were like so proud of my father. My father came here without knowing to the United States from South America, without knowing the language, without knowing anyone, and came with $100 in his pocket, landed in JFK and said, take me to the middle of where everything is happening. They dropped him off in Times Square. So $20 were gone right there. So now he had 80, had nowhere to sleep, didn't know what he was going to do. Found himself a room that night, got up the next morning, and got himself a job. He found a job and he didn't even know he was going to sleep that night, mentioned it to someone that he worked with, and they said, oh, someone that I'm living with now is renting a room, maybe after work we can go see. And that's how my dad started. And my dad, I always say there is the American dream if you work hard. My dad came here without the language, without knowledge of anyone, $100 in his pocket, and my dad became vice president of a major corporation.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and raised four kids and gave us the best of every opportunity. Like we always say there was never once that we longed for, oh my God, we don't have a meal or we don't have a roof over our head. Because my dad, at times as he was climbing up that ladder, where he started as a dishwasher and became VP of a major corporation, a major automotive group, you know. So there was never we didn't know that this man was working 2 and 3 jobs, sometimes climbing up that ladder, but he didn't want us to do without. So I always say there is always a way. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm super always, that's like I beam when I say that about my dad, because I'm just so proud of him. Yeah,
it's an amazing story. He came with $100 in his pocket.
Yeah, and that
$100.
No, didn't know where he was gonna sleep that night. Landed, knew not a soul in New York City. And like he says, he's like he was basically an 18-year-old kid who came here. He could have gotten lost. He could have gotten lost in drugs. He could have gotten lost in the streets. He could have gotten into bad things, and he chose on his own with no one guiding him to make the right path. And, you know, out of that came a wife, an amazing wife, 4 kids, 9 grandkids. Couldn't be more prouder of him for who he became. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And they've been married for how long, you said?
I'm gonna say it's 58 years in May. I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, it's a total
amazing
blessing.
Story and a blessing to hear.
Yeah,
and it's encouraging, especially in this day and age.
Absolutely.
When no one pays marriage.
Yeah, and absolutely, and even the times that, you know, the man had to hold 2 and 3 jobs down that he could have probably told my mom, hey, I need you to work. He never did. He was like, it's important for you to be home with the children. That's where you need to be.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, that was her role, to take care of the house. His role was to be the provider.
So is he the one so it seemed like your father is very resourceful, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So is he the one who's found those opportunities for you?
Yeah, both my parents. Yeah, I mean, between me, I would do things. Oh my God, I would be calling different management companies. I would be calling different record labels. And then he also, because of where he worked, he would meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, you know, so opportunities came that way, you know, at that point where the position that he was in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because I'm thinking in this situation, there was a connection that was made. It had to be somebody with resources that had to figure it out. And now you just kind of put that key together. Like, he saw his daughter who wanted this thing, and you seemed like you were driven, and you probably was doing everything that you can do. But then you had this bigger resource with your dad and your mother that kind of supported you emotionally and mentally and financially, and they were able to drive that dream too. You know? Oh,
absolutely. And even to this day, my parents are my biggest cheerleaders. You know, it's like when I do like my monthly series on Univision, which is like the major Latin network, TV network. You know, as a dating coach. Like the first person I call is like, I'll call my parents. Like, okay, tell me what I did. Did I do good? Did I not? I want their critique. I want them to tell me you did good, or this is what you need to do. Yeah, because they've just always been my biggest supporters. I have to do a shout out. I don't know who this is, but Coco, I love that your parents were married 63 years. That's amazing. That is, her parents were married 63 years until her father passed away in May of 2022. That's amazing. That is a big shout out.
That is a big shout out.
Yeah.
All right. So they were able to, and like during I guess between 10 and 14, figure out a path forward and getting you to a place where you kind of were on TV, you were singing, you were traveling, you were making a name for yourself.
Yeah.
How was that transition initially? Like being out in the public eye, were you comfortable? Was it natural for you?
Oh my God, it's so natural. I loved it. I loved it from like the first moment I got to actually step on a professional stage. It was like, okay, this is my calling. And I just, you know, and I think it was the first one I remember. It was like a tiny little festival that we performed on, you know, we had just formed the group. And I was like, oh man, I'm like, I don't know who back in the day, I'm Donna Summer, you know. I became Marie in my head.
You just couldn't believe you were there.
Yes. And every time I'm so grateful for any opportunity I get, you know, is a blessing for me, no matter how big or how small. And then to get to the point of sharing these stages with, you know, back in the day, Mark Anthony was a salsa singer only. He wasn't Mark Anthony of today of the pop world. Yeah. But, you know, Mark Anthony, Celia, for people who know Latin music, Celia Cruz, you know, Johnny Ventura, which was my musical godfather, which is like a legend. Like saying Johnny Ventura is like saying James Brown for the Hispanics, you know, it's like a legend, you know, huge. Just all these, Luis Miguel, Menudo. I love Menudo. Oh my God, I was obsessed with Menudo, and I got to share a stage with them at one point in I was like, oh my gosh, it was like such a blessing. Like, I can't believe I'm sharing the stage with these people.
Did you take pictures with them too?
Yeah, we have pictures, we have videos. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Remember the big video cameras?
Yeah, the big old VHS tapes and everything.
Yeah. So it was so cool. Yeah.
So okay, so you're from 14 and on. Yeah, that childhood wasn't a typical childhood.
No.
You know? So I mean, how was your friendships during that time? Did you have friends?
Yeah, I had 2 core friends, and then my 2 bandmates. The 3 of us were very close. And then I had one friend that was not in the band that we were close also. And it was just great because you were traveling with your friends, but it wasn't typical. You know, it was like sometimes your friends were going out, but we had to go rehearse, so we couldn't go out. Or, you know, you were doing a show because Miami is like the hub of Latin music, you know, so maybe you were at the TV station till 2 a.m., but you're home, so you're going to have to go to regular school. And I had to be at regular school at 8 a.m. the next day, but you just finished at a TV station 2 a.m. So it was a lot of that, you know, rehearsing, being in the studio. So it was absolutely, it was great. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking like, even like, it's a lot. Like,
yeah, and discipline.
Yeah, it required a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of focus. Yeah. And it requires a lot of sacrifice too.
It does. And I mean, that's kind of like, where my A-type personality comes from.
Yeah.
Because I had to be focused at an early age. Yeah.
But okay, so it's interesting that you said that. That's why I was thinking that, like, it requires a lot. So certain people with a certain personality, it would drain them completely and they would run away from it. With certain people, it feeds them. Yeah. They want the next thing.
Yes.
They're like, okay, I want to climb. Yeah. You know? And it's so important to identify who we are, and, you know,
absolutely.
Your character and your personality fed into all of that. No?
Yes, yeah. And it's like, no matter what I do it. If I commit to doing something, even now in life, like, I don't do it halfway.
Yeah.
I do it fully. I will not do it halfway.
1,000%.
If I find an opportunity comes my way, I will not wait and sit back and say, oh, what is this opportunity going to bring to me? I seek more in that opportunity, and I'll see, you know, I'll get more than what's, you know, it'll say, okay, like example, you know, something will happen. Someone gives me a, like this, you know, we're doing a live. I'll promote it. I'll push always the extra limit. I just don't sit back and go, okay, this is what came to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a journey. Like, I'm thinking of, like, just like I said, like, from 14 to 9. I mean, I just remember when I was 14 and I was still trying to come into my own.
I sometimes look at my kids, you know? like my son now is 14, or my daughter's 22, but back then, and I was like, wait a minute, I was like 16 traveling the world, and you guys don't want to get up and serve yourself cereal? You know?
Yeah. I was more like not trying to do anything. Yeah, I was trying to find out what everyone was doing that weekend, you know?
Yeah.
So it just take a lot of focus and whatever, but I feel like you had a network and you had like a community behind you that kind of supported the dreams that you had.
Yeah. Oh my.
Which was critical because
my parents, our management was amazing. Our record label team was amazing. Our tour manager was amazing. He was like he was all of 22, like our tour manager, and he was trying to be all serious, and we were laughing at him, like, "What, are you kidding me? You're 22," you know. So we had a great support, and what was great is that I know people in the music business that were in the music business during my time, and they were teenagers as well. I mean, and they've had drug problems, they've had alcohol problems, you know, things that they shouldn't have seen or happened to them have happened to them. What was great was everyone on our team, and I'm so thankful because it was like a family unit, like our management, our road manager, our label, they would be like, they called us the girls. No one would get near the girls. So we would be like, so back then, do you know how like iHeartRadio does like Jingle Ball now? Maybe like in December, they'll have like a whole bunch of artists that get together.
Yeah.
So back then, that's really how a lot of artists toured and traveled. You would go to certain cities with different, like 8 artists would go, but it wouldn't be just like for like a Jingle Ball or something that was Christmas or something special, or, it would be a lot during the year, and you would go to different cities like that. So, and you would see different, kids, because we were kids, and you would see the messed up things that were happening to them. But like to us, like we would be backstage, like no one gets in with the girls, no one gets into the girls' dressing room. So the girls basically were protected in this bubble. And I'm so thankful because everyone on the team was like that. So we saw from afar, but we were never near it. We were never allowed. The chaperone ended up being my mother, came on tour with us. So we didn't get away with anything at that point. Yeah. So it was,
especially in the industry, you know how it is. Like for me, when my kids did modeling for me with Disney, I always protected them because they can exploit and they can try to push the limit. And like, no, we're not doing this. I don't care what.
Kids are so easily exploited if you're not on top of them. Thankfully, everyone was on top of us. Thankfully.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But some parents don't have the faculties to understand how the industry is. And they see money and they're like, oh, this is good for my children. No, not everything is good. You got to look at the mental. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
All right. So, okay. So now you're touring, and then you said at 19, we're at 19, right?
At 19.
And the band breaks up.
The band breaks up. And I had, at that point, the label had wanted me to go solo, and I was so burnt out.
Are you Beyonce? And you're the Beyonce of the group, huh?
Just give me the fan and I'll be Beyonce.
You are ready. Your whole life, you ready for this moment.
Yes. Yeah, and at that moment, I was burned out. I didn't do it. Yeah, I was totally burned out. I didn't do it. And I remember my dad
didn't do it.
My dad telling me these opportunities go away very quickly. He's like, in 6 months, he's like, in 3 months, they won't even remember who you are anymore if you're not there. And I was like, oh, whatever. I didn't believe him, But they always did allow us to make our own decisions. And sure enough, that's what happened, because you're gone, And at that point, I actually went to South America to go live in South America. And I got hired. I went to go live there because I got hired by Coca-Cola, that little company called Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that little company. Yeah. I think I've heard of that company.
As a spokesmodel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I went over there and I had a contract over there. And I also worked for FIFA World Cup Soccer. So I worked as a spokesmodel for them. So I worked there for a bit. And then when I came back, I said, you know what? It was like the music was calling me again. And that's when my musical godfather that I told you, Johnny Ventura, which is like, it's a huge legend for us in the Latin music world. I went to his house in Dominican Republic. That's where he's from, stayed with his family. And we started recording an album, an EP, I'm sorry, to start taking to the labels. And so I started doing shows again here and there because it was basically starting from scratch. It was zero. People forget about you. Now we're talking about, a year and a half, 2 years later, and you're at zero. They don't care who you are anymore.
They completely forget. Wow.
They don't care who you are. And
so wait, now looking back, knowing everything, do you wish that you kind of would have went solo, or what's your thoughts on that?
It's a double-edged sword question for me. Okay. Because yes, I should have listened. Yes, I should have continued. But while I made this EP and started to promote this EP and started going to the labels and trying to get another deal, I met, which is now my ex-husband, but I met my then husband, and I got 2 beautiful children out of that.
Yes.
So that's what I say. It's a double-edged sword for me, because my children, at the end of the day, I say my children are my Grammys, my Oscar, my People's Choice Award. They are my life. So it's such a double-edged question for me that I don't know.
So now I'm outside your bubble, right? So so if you didn't go that direction, you would probably have a whole different set of circumstances. Yeah, isn't that weird?
A completely different life. Yeah.
That fork in the road.
Yeah.
That one decision, like, wow, that's interesting.
It is, but you know what I always say at the end of the day is God always has a plan for us. And that's what was in the cards, I guess, And sometimes we don't listen to God, you know, but I'm like, okay, God, if this is the road I was supposed to take, then this was where I was supposed to go. You know, I believe in God, but I'm just, you know, talking to the public here, whatever higher power you personally believe in, you know, there's always a different road for you. Yeah, it's what the road that the higher power wants.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a fork in the road. That was definitely a fork in the road. Okay, so now we on a different path, and you met. What was the condition that you met? You were doing an EP, and you said you met your now ex-husband. What was that? How did you guys meet?
My now ex-husband. Of course, you know, I fell in love. I was 21. Fell in love 21. Completely. Yes, and so I was locked down pretty early in life.
Oh. Wow. Okay. So you had an early marriage. Yeah.
Early marriage, and we were married for a few years, and then had our daughter. Yeah. Had our daughter, which is my daughter was 22. That was on the show with me, and you know, I ended up being a stay-at-home wife. I gave up everything. Yeah. So I gave up everything. I stayed as a stay-at-home wife. I gave up everything and a stay-at-home mother. I wouldn't trade that for the world. That was our deal while my ex-husband was climbing up. Again, it was almost the same story, climbing the corporate ladder. You know, where he was, you know, he started out from here, you know, and he's here in his career, which I kind of want to take credit for, and I should, because I supported everything in the household, making sure everything was done, and that was my job. Gladly I took it, and we had, you know, the story didn't end how it was supposed to go, but we have two beautiful children out of it. Beautiful children.
Now, do you look back at the situation, and I mean, of course, I mean, it doesn't like, you look back and you can see you or your mom, you played your mom role too in that whole situation, right? A stay at home. Did that feel natural for you when you took that on, or did it feel like uncomfortable initially, or?
No, it did. It felt natural. I am also, besides my type A personality, I'm a huge nurturer, and I like to take care of my family, and I want to make sure everyone's happy and being loved. So, and part of my journey was because of that, I lost who Karen was, because everyone else was important besides Karen. So that's part of my healing journey that we'll get to fast forward. Yeah. But now also, I just didn't stay at home like my mom did because of my personality and because how I am. I was room mom. I was, you know, president of the PTA. I was, you know, chairwoman of raising funds for the school. And so I was very involved in that way, you know. I was always like, and I've always taken that role within my friends of being the leader and the one who makes the plans, and, you know, but no one had, you know, until I learned on my journey, which I started 3 years ago, like no one ever took care of Karen. Karen took care of everyone else, and I got lost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's part of my big journey after getting divorced.
Let me ask you a question. Is that something new, or was that something prior to being married? Like before, you felt like people were taking care of you, or did people just want to? Because I feel like you was in a community that kind of fed you, but also it was part of you pushing forward with your dream. Yes. You know?
But no, I was always like, you know, even like elementary school, the playground, I was the one organizing the kickball, you know, the kickball during recess. Leah's saying I can relate. Absolutely. Yeah. I was within my friends. I was the one always planning everything. I was the one always getting the group together. I was always, whatever it was, I was always, even when we were like in the musical group, when we would do our interviews, it was always, okay, Karen to the front, because she's the one who speaks the most. She knows what she's talking about. So I always took that leadership role and always felt like I had to take care of everyone else and left myself behind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, you know, I to this point now today, I'm like, oh no, I want someone to also emotionally take care of me, be there for me, which before I didn't care. I would be like, no, it's okay. I don't need my cup filled as long as I'm filling everyone else's cup. And I've had to learn.
Would you say since you had a traditional, this is interesting. Wouldn't you say since you had a traditional like household, your husband was taking care of you in a sense where he was like, what he not take emotionally? What I mean, wasn't he kind of taking care of you in that way? No, my ex-husband was
an amazing provider.
Yeah.
Very much a provider mindset of a man. Things were taken care of around the house, but we had our jobs. That was his job, and my job was to make sure everything in the household was taken care of. So he didn't have to think about coming home and doing anything.
Yeah.
On the weekends, we would do things together, you know, obviously, and you know, honey-do lists and all that, and honey, you know, the lawn needs to be done or whatever, or, you know, garage clean. Yes, in that sense, those man duties. But, you know, I made sure everything was set in the house. The kids were taken care of. The dinner was on the table. His clothes was clean. Everything. He didn't have to think about anything. Yeah. So we each had our role. Yeah. So yeah. So in the sense of
would you say it's more emotional, like as far as like what they avoid emotionally when you said taking care of?
Yeah. That void
emotionally
was
me as a person and seeing me as beyond what I'm doing, like what, you know, your personal journey of your heart.
Yes. Like, definitely the emotional void was there.
Okay.
Yeah. So absolutely. And I've learned that in the past 3 years, but because I have taken control of my life on my own, and to heal myself, which I think is important, and learn and be like, hold up, I am. And I think, you know, I love, and I say this, and people have to understand, when people say they love themselves, we're not saying it in, the majority of people are not saying it in this egotistical, narcissistic way. You have to love yourself and learn to love yourself in order to be loved properly by someone else.
That's fact.
You can't expect someone to love you and give you the love that you are wanting unless you've loved yourself first.
That's facts.
Learn and learn true love, not like, oh, look at yourself in the mirror, I love myself. No, like true, and have your boundaries and respect yourself, and, you know, hold yourself to all those things. Like I always say, I know we're jumping around, but like I always say, boundaries, if I put a boundary up with you, the boundary is not for you, the boundary is for myself, and I have to make sure I'm holding to that boundary by not allowing you to cross that boundary. So people always go, but boundaries are for, you know, he's or he or she is crossing my boundary. I'm like, if they want to cross it, that's fine, but you have to uphold your own boundary. Have your
own standards.
Yeah, absolutely. So so then after 15 years married, 19 years of being together, I got divorced.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so two
kids. So on top of this discussion of like taking care of me, like I like this discussion because it's such a nuanced discussion, you know, because what people see sometimes is not what is, right? So would you say, like, for like your personal journey, like, were you open, do you feel like you were emotionally ready or open to like certain things in your life, or did you like stay in your caring, protective bubble like throughout your journey? Like, were you emotionally kept yourself together because you had to be strong all the time, where you had to take care of everyone and be there for everyone, but so you kept your emotions to yourself, and it was only your journey and only you could handle that, and you knew how to soothe your own emotions? You know, you never really let anyone. Did you ever let someone into that space?
Because of my divorce, I mean, I was very open with my husband and emotional and everything, but within because of that divorce, and then pretty quickly after my divorce, I got into a relationship I should have never been in. You know, I was just very scared, and I was alone, and I had not been. I went from my parents' house to my husband. I had never been alone. I had never lived alone. I had a 4-year-old. I had a 12-year-old. What do I do? I'm in this divorce now. I got into a relationship I shouldn't have. You know, grateful to that person, but I shouldn't have been in that relationship. And then finally getting myself out of that relationship, it took a lot of courage because I shouldn't have been in there. I knew it. And that is when I said, hold up, I'm done taking care of everyone except my children, because they're the only ones they didn't ask to be brought to this world. And that is when my journey started. I'm going on 4 years now of that journey. And that is when, you know, when I just said I broke up with that relationship, and I was like, I'm done. I can't, this was never supposed to be this. And, you know, so I started on that journey, and I consciously made the decision of not dating for a year. I was like, I always say, Jesus could have come down from the sky and said, I have this amazing man for you. I'm going to give him to you in your hands. I handpicked him for you. Here he is. I would have said, can you just wait for a year, Jesus? Just hold on to him for me. I would have said no, because I purposely made the decision of not dating for a year. And that is when I started on my journey of healing. And I started my sister was very spiritual. And you know, she does a lot of healing. She does like a lot of healing workshops, and she's in these groups. And of course, she believes like in Tony Robbins and Landmark and all that. And it was actually my sister who gave me for my birthday. She's like, I have a gift for you. And she gave me, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Landmark. I only went to one session. Not that I'm a big advertiser of them, but it did start me on that journey. And I went, it was like a weekend retreat, and I went from that. And then I started journaling. I started doing, hey, Tennessee, how are you? Chattanooga saying hello. And started journaling, started going to these self-help retreats, tons of self-help books, yoga, meditation is my peace of mind completely. And it's not easy to do at all. But I still to this day can only do guided meditation. I can't meditate on my own, but it does help me. And I just really just started on that journey and pushing and pushing and pushing. And then finally, when I said I'm ready to start dating, which was 2020, February of 2020, I gave myself the first time I ever traveled by myself. I remember being on a plane. I said, I'm going to go on a vacation by myself because I had never been alone by myself or lived by myself. I remember being up in the plane going to Jamaica by myself, and everyone was up in arms. Jamaica, you're going to Jamaica by yourself? How can you go to an island by yourself? I'm going to a resort. Nothing's going to happen to me, you know? So they're picking me up. I'm going to a resort, and then I'm never leaving the resort. But I remember being up in the air, and I had like a panic attack. Like, what am I doing? How am I going on this vacation by myself? I've never been by myself. I travel by myself, but always for work. But at the end of the journey was either, you know, a coworker or someone meeting me. So I never literally was going to be by myself. Like no one to talk to, no one to eat with, no one, anything. And I can tell you the end of the fourth day that I was there, I didn't want to come back. The first day was horrendous. I didn't know what to do. I think that day I got there very early in the morning, like 10 a.m. or something. I worked out twice. I went on the beach like 8 times. I went into the pool. I rode a bike that they had around.
I know it was lonely. It probably was lonely. Like, oh my God, what am I doing?
I was like, what am I doing? The worst part was I remember sitting down for lunch and they were like, just one, ma'am. And I was like, just one. And I'm looking at, it wasn't an adult resort, but at that, there was no children. It was all like either couples. It was really all couples. And then there was only one other group, which was like 4 girls on a bachelorette party. And I remember going like, oh my God, I'm such a loser. I'm here by myself. Everyone has someone to be with. And I think I even cried. I mean, I was just like, what am I doing here? Because my life was in a place I didn't want it to be. And like I said, at the end of the fourth day, I'm like, I love this. And now I take vacations by myself. I take myself to dinner. I have the best fun with myself. I can be in a paper bag and I have a party by myself. And that's something I had to learn. But so I started on that self-help, journey. And then finally, when I said February of 2020, I am so ready to start dating. I'm healed. You know, I've already been the year. COVID happens in March of 2020.
Oh my God.
So I was like, all right, God.
Great.
I guess I'm not ready.
Yep. I'll be home for another year or two.
I was home. And then everything, everything was shut down completely. I think I had been on a few dates and I dated, I think it was like 2 guys, but it wasn't anything. And COVID shut down completely. And all of a sudden, I really had nothing to do. So now, remember, everyone and their mother was doing, different forums on Zooms and different, retreats on Zoom because we couldn't leave our houses. So I was like all day constantly on these Zooms, on these different self-help Zooms, and even more into the journaling. And now I was like doing yoga twice a day, meditating twice a day. I would make my kids and myself, we would be out in the pool the whole day. Like, we're not staying in the house, let's go. So I was with the sunshine and the air and the grass, and we would go on walks. And I know COVID was really, really bad for a lot of people, but for me, COVID gave me so much growth, self-growth. Like, that's why I am grateful that happened, because I would not have had that opportunity for that to have happened. Yeah. So it further made me go in deep. And then I said, no, I deserve the best of love. I deserve the self-respect. I deserve to be number one. I deserve to be loved. I deserve my cup to be full. Yes. I love myself. Yeah. So I just started. And that is like when you
start speaking.
Yes. And it was like, it was like the light shine through, like, oh my God, yes, this is what I've always wanted. And I would now, even to today, I wake up every day, even on the days, you know, some days you could be happy and you could be a great person and your life is great and happy, but we still wake up sometimes like, I don't want to wake, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm tired. I don't want
difficult.
And there were days I don't want to get out.
Let me ask you about, because we have 15 minutes left, and I want to get into.
Why do we only do it for an hour?
I know, right? And I want to get into like your transition back into entertainment and being this dating coach, and then get into some really good advice that you have. Like
60-second transition, so we can get into the advice. 60-second transition. 2021, we're still in COVID. My daughter had to come home from college. She's doing college via Zoom. I'm not working at this point, so everything is dead. She sees an ad on Instagram. It says, do you want to find your parents a second chance at love? It was for parents over 40. Do you want to find your parent over 40 a second chance of love? She shows, very generic ad. She shows it to me. I said, Brianna, you're out of your mind. It's not even real. It was so generic. I had no idea what it was. She was like, Mom, let me just want our pictures and our info in, you know, our background, like our names and our ages. And I go, we're not doing that. And she's like, what are we doing, Mom? We're in 4 walls. And she's like, if it's fake, because it looked fake to me at that point. She's like, if it's fake, all we say is no and just stop talking to the person. What's the worst? They have our phone number? I said, all right. I was like on a Thursday. On a Monday, we got a phone call from like one casting director, which turned into casting directors to producers. Then you started seeing, then it was like ITV, which is a big production house, very well known, is behind it. So now it's legit. I'm seeing as it's moving along, roll into like, you know, 5 Zoom meetings. I knew like they wanted us to go do like health tests and mental tests and you know to make sure you're okay. Yes, psychological tests. 3 weeks later, they were like, pack your bags. You're part of the cast. You're going to LA. So we got on My Mom, Your Dad. It's on HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
And that's a reality dating show. And that is how I got back into the entertainment business. So I have my daughter to thank for that.
Your daughter, but it calls you. It just calls you. You can't.
It calls me.
Hide.
It does. It does.
Yes, it just, even in my own journey, like I did some modeling when I was young, and I got back out of it, and I just was an engineer, and it just, for some reason, it just calls you back. Like,
it does.
You're like, oh no, you just go on social media. Like I went on social media just to post stuff because my daughter got a TikTok, and that blew up, and I got back in and like it just, I don't know, for certain personalities, just like draws you back in. You know?
Exactly. I think how we met is because I saw your video. I think you were with your son.
Yeah.
And people were like putting comments about your son. I was like, oh no, let's talk about the dad.
Oh. You try. Okay, you're making me shy. I can't take when people make compliments on me. You're making me shy. Okay.
So I got back into it because my daughter. So the show came out. It was created by Greg and Haley Daniels. So so they're a father and daughter team. So the premise is our children we didn't know this. We just thought they were going in there to help producers with our love life and help dating consultants. Yeah. What happened, they ended up being our dating consultants. We had no idea because we were in different houses. You know, the parents lived in one house, the kids lived in another. We had no idea. They were watching us via closed circuit cameras. We thought, of course, there's cameras everywhere. We're filming a TV show. They're watching the cameras like 16 hours a day. They're manipulating our love life, who we're going on dates with, who we're not. If they want, we didn't know that. If they wanted to mess up our love, our dates. And in my head, I mean, we would all say, like, what's going on? What are these dating consultants? Where are they finding? Because all these weird things were happening to us during filming. And we were like, what is this? These people are crazy. What you know, we're like, please be the kids. And we're like, nah, the producers wouldn't do this. So anyways, and Greg Daniels, if you don't know, so you'll know how it came out funny and cringy. Greg Daniels is the executive producer of The Office and the creator of Parks and Rec.
Oh, okay,
so of course,
and it's called My Mom,
Your Dad.
Your Dad.
Your Dad.
Okay.
So fast forward to that, the show came out, and because of that, I got an Instagram following, and then I would get people asking me questions. Well, how do I start to get dating over 40? What do I do? I'm shy. I don't want to get out there. You know, it's so hard because it is. It's hard. It's so hard. It's
so dating over 40. This is it. I've been waiting for this part.
Yes, you know. So it's dating over 40.
Okay, give me some good advice.
Yes, and then from that, I was like, let me create my own 6-week series for my followers. And I got a psychologist involved. I got dating coaches involved, relationship coaches, life coaches, and we did a 6-week series, which was really successful on IG Live. And then two of the coaches like, Karen, you're really good at this. And you really give good advice. Like, why don't you just go and get certified to be a dating and relationship coach? And I was like, oh, I never thought of that, you know? And of course I have all this inside me because I have been studying the past 4 years on self-help and self-love and relationships. And, you know, so of course I have even that background. And then I ended up getting certified with it. And then I became a dating and relationship coach. I have my clients. I go on IG. I put my little funny reels to make it funny because I don't want to make it serious, you know, like little things. Give advice. I do these IGs, which I collaborate or I'll do them on my own. And then also I got the chance with Univision, which is the Latin major network. And I'm on their morning talk show as the dating consultant for over 40. So I go on and have my segment on there. So again, it called me, the TV called me back.
Exactly. So what advice, okay, so you just got divorced, you got out of a long relationship, you were committed, you thought it was gonna last forever, right?
Yeah.
And then things didn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So you're divorced or you're out of the relationship that you've been in that you just put all your life and all your energy in, and you didn't really fathom you'll be at this place in your life.
Yeah.
And then you come in a world where everything is so transactional.
Yes.
And no one is looking for a real deep connection. There's a few people that are looking for it, but they're hiding because they don't want to deal with everybody.
Yes.
But how do you navigate this terrain?
You have got to put, I always, my number one thing, and what I have issues with my clients is you've got to put yourself out there, no matter what.
But it's scary.
It's super scary. And
okay.
Online dating has made it 1,000 times worse. It's really messed up the demographics and the landscape of dating. Because how would we meet? At work, friends, at a bar, family, at the grocery store. That is how we would meet people before.
Yeah.
And so, and then now people think, oh, hold on, I have a little issue. Forget you, and they go back to the
the smallest thing could be triggered to something else.
Yeah, the tiniest little thing. Instead of before we're like, okay, let's work this out.
Yeah.
You know, and we're talking about little things, not major things that you shouldn't be in a relationship, red flags, but you know, oh, don't worry about it because I have 50 people that I can go on the cyber and find, you know, on Bumble and immediately get a date within an hour. So it really has ruined the landscape of dating, I think. But I tell them you have to go. The number one thing is please put yourself out there. And even if it is, maybe you don't want to do, like I have a client who refuses to do online dating. And I said, okay, but can we at least, I don't want you to go on these dates, but then I need you to make connections with people in real life. Then while you're at the supermarket, look at someone and say, hello, good morning. You don't have to make that conversation. And that was like one of the assignments they had was this past week was they had to go and say hello to everyone that they came in contact with. And that person was terrified. I don't think I can do that. And I said, oh, yes, you can.
Make themselves
put yourself out there. Yeah.
Like see what's out there, what connections exist. And it's not like you saying hello to everyone, meaning you're going to make a connection with everyone. You're just practicing.
You're
putting yourself out there.
You're putting it out there. And what happens when you put the positive things out there? Positive things come back with you.
So one of the assignments,
I go, don't say hello and look forward. I want you to look at them and smile. Hello, good morning.
Yeah.
So
one of the assignments is say hello, put yourself out there.
Yeah,
okay,
get yourself
I like that.
out there. And don't expect that the first date, whether it's in person or whether you meet, I have met gentlemen I've been approached at the grocery store. I've been approached on elevators. It's all about how you put yourself out there. You know, I've been approached at a gas station. Yep. Someone said, Leah says positive attracts positive. Absolutely. Yeah. But because I sit there and you have to kind of have that mindset of, you know, I radiate, I attract good things in my life because it is a law of attraction. A lot of people find it like a little woo-woo, but it is a law of attraction. If you're miserable, that's all you're going to attract. If you're positive and you try to make your things positive, your life, that's what you're going to attract as well. But even if it's, don't expect it to be the first, like I met a guy on an elevator and actually we exchanged numbers. We had a quick conversation and we did go on a date. You know, would it have been someone I normally would go out with? No, but guess what? That I went out and I had that practice, you know, and I had a great time and a great conversation. And you know what? I made a great friend out of it to say that we're still friends, you know. It just didn't work out. And what if I would have just closed myself astronaut? So go and put yourself out there.
See what's
if
out
you
there.
Join online dating, please, people, put your age, put really how tall you are.
Yeah.
Don't put pictures of you, gentlemen, please don't put pictures of you shirtless or holding fish. Ladies, don't put yourself in provocative outfits or bathing suits, because, and then tell me, why am I only attracting men that are telling me things that are offending me? It's all in what you put out there.
No, that's a good advice.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? I noticed it, especially
don't expect your first date that's going to be the person you're going to end up with. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I've been on dates where the very first date, I've been told like, oh yeah, you know, once I'm focused, I don't look at anybody else. I'm like, you better look at other people. You don't know each other yet. You know,
Absolutely.
It's the most awkward conversation to have. But also, I feel like from a guy standpoint, maybe you can give advice on this. Like, I mean, some guys, I feel like a lot of guys, especially who've been married before, it's very cautious, just like a woman is. But I'm very friendly in person, like, you know, and I try, and it's kind of dangerous too, because you never know what perspective, like, there's so many things going on in the world, and, you know, a guy can be seen as this. So sometimes I'm just like very reserved until I know 100%. So I'm not as like in person. I mean, you got to hit me over with a baseball bat before I even know, like, you know, I don't know if you're being friendly or whatever. And my son always had to tell me, like, Eddie, it's so obvious. Well, I'm like, I don't know. You don't know in this day and age. Back in the day, it used to be more clear. I just feel like today it's just, you don't know, you know? And I don't want to make the wrong move and then, you know, get labels. It's just weird, you know? And it's
so many new rules. And you know what? Be yourself. Don't, because they'll ask me about, you know, if he texts me, do I wait 2 hours to text him back? No, don't play games, please. You know, we're adults here, especially because, you know, my clients are over 40, and that's really what my niche is, you know, is like, we're not at the age to be playing games. If you feel like texting back, text back.
Text immediately,
Yeah, don't play the game. Don't wait around.
Don't get caught up in that.
Yes. And when you said about people, they go on the first day like, oh my God, this is the person. No, I know some people don't agree with me. My advice always is date, not be intimate, not give yourself to them, you know.
Don't give yourself to everyone.
Exactly. Is dating, where you're getting to know each other, where you're having dinner, where you're maybe going for a walk, maybe you're going to go play tennis, whatever it is, go to the beach, go to an amusement park, whatever it is, or a museum. Dating. Date 3 on rotation. And
3 on rotation? Whoa.
3 on rotation.
Okay.
3 on rotation, and you should know within the first few weeks, you know, maybe number 2, you guys wasn't the person that was for you. And instead of wasting the next 3 months of your life on someone that really wasn't for you, that they kind of like women or men, they weed themselves out. And you may end up with that one person out of the 3, or you may end up with none. And you know what? Yeah, you start meeting different people. And it's just like I said, no intimacy. It's your dating, you know, and getting to know each other, getting to know people. Yeah. And then you stop dating once and you kind of know, oh, this is, like, say, you know, this is the guy from here, this is the girl from here, and then everyone naturally falls off, and that's when you already have that base for a relationship.
I think that's really good advice.
Yeah.
I just need to get more motivated. I felt like recently I've told myself I'm going to get more focused and motivated, because I feel like I've been on date. I feel like I get exhausted. Like, I'm like,
it's exhausting.
Yeah,
but let me
ask
you, is it more about you exhausting, or is it because you're already comfortable?
Maybe that.
Because that's the case. Remember where we're at in our age, we're like, when we're over 40, we're like,
well, I'm 28.
I'm comfortable. I don't want to go out and get on a date.
I just like
to be sitting
correction
by myself with my Lay's potato chips.
Exactly. I'm 28. I mean, some people are over 40. I'm in my 20s still.
Yes.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's okay, because in my mind, I will forever be 36.
Forever be 36? Yeah, in my mind, I'm always a certain age.
Oh, please.
All right,
yes.
So we're at the top of the hour. This is an awesome
gosh,
discussion.
Why this for an hour? This should have been like a 2-hour session.
I know. But we're going to continue the discussion on our Facebook group.
Yes.
If you guys, probably this is going to be too late for you guys to join this discussion. It's a meet and greet right afterwards. It's at lifecoacheddie.com. Go join our Facebook group. and then you'll be able to join the meet and greets for future Table Talk. So we're going to continue the discussion with the people who registered to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing you over there. I'll send you the link through Instagram.
I'm going to get it. I'm going to hop right on. So see you guys on Facebook. Over, continue the conversation
Karen,
there, and hope you'll have me back on Instagram. And this time we'll do a 2-hour session, maybe even 2 more.
You got to promise me one thing.
Tell me.
Next time you're in Orlando, you got to tell me these tips.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
All right. We'll talk. All right. I'll see you
Definitely.
All right.
I'll see you on Facebook. All right. Bye-bye.